Good evening and welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Backstage Pass. I am your host, Vince Edwards. You may know me from Sound Image Productions. I also have a couple closed roadie groups on Facebook, one called Death by Loadout, another one called The Backstage Pass. Come check us out. We're having some fun over there, talking mad shit. Listen, this evening I have got a special development. I've got my dearest and one and only good friend and just a brother and a half. It's Bernie Broderick from Tucson Audio. How are you, Bern?
I'm doing fine, man.
It's so good to have you, my friend. Now, of course, we're having you because... Well, first of all, I reached out to you a while back saying, hey, let's do this. Even we got a tandem, you know.
You're not wrong.
I know, I rarely am. I mean, it happens. But we got the call from our co-host, Kyle Thomas, who got exposed to some COVID. So we hope Kyle's doing okay out there. He says he has no symptoms or anything, but we wanted to have him here. Well, first of all, he's co-host boy. But, you know, because... the lay of the land and the guests this evening and him have a connection. So
That's
regardless, thank you for filling in.
Yeah.
I fucking can always count on you. You're a brother from another mother. How has life been treating you?
Good, man. Yeah, it's good to be back on. I mean, it's like, you know, putting the toe in every so often is a lot of fun always.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm super easy to get along with, and
You are. That's true.
And when duty calls, you know, I'll show up. But yeah, no, everything's good.
Hey, one other thing. Hey, Mikey, would it kill you to run and get us a hoodie so we can talk about it on the show? There's one hanging on a hook by my office.
The hoodie, yes.
Yeah, he's just going to throw it on real quick, but I think he's got us in a place where we can talk back and forth and he can just real quickly grab it. He's going to pull off the one he's wearing right now. So the hoodies are in. I was going to talk about this like 6th or something, but I just realized I didn't bring one like an idiot.
We need like a runway.
Oh, is Mikey modeling right now?
There he is.
There he is. Look at Mikey.
There it is.
Mikey, you're a badass, Mike. That's actually way better.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mikey.
Yeah, good job,
He's a
man.
good boy.
That's a good job.
All right, so that was my big stupid face on the hoodie. It's our brand. It's this big thing right here on the deal.
I think it's like 1-to-1, isn't it? It's
no.
actually the same size as your head.
No. It is a wee bit bigger.
Ginormous?
Yeah.
Isn't your head ginormous, though?
I guess. I don't know. What the fuck?
From tip to stern, you know?
Oh, man. And the news.
Got the beard
All right, I'm
going.
taking the captain away if you're going to be mean the whole time. What the hell, man? Yeah, okay. So I got my face on lots of stuff. Lighters and cups and playing cards and paperwork and yeah, okay. It's a brand, man.
It's a brand. No, it's good.
It's a brand.
It's good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So we got a bunch of hoodies, guys. We already had 25 or so, and we send them out to the hardcore loyal audience members that have been around for this whole thing for like 90 episodes, and that we ran through them real quick. So now we got a batch of new ones. And these guys, I got to tell you guys, they're not handing them out. They're kind of expensive.
Yeah.
And I sent one off to Tony Lewis, a dear, good friend. Other side of the country. Where the hell was it? I think it was Baltimore or something. Just I think this morning, and so keep an eye out for a Tone. But it's like $10 to get them out across the nation like that, which is my pleasure. So I'm going to sell these sons of bitches based on the price that we paid for them, and then with shipping and handling included for like $50. You guys want something? PM me. Reach out to us. Give me an address. With the phone, I need a phone number for the using Zippo application. Phone number, email, and size, and we'll work out how we get square on it. But we got a batch of them. We'd love to see you guys walking around shows with them freaking people out. All my enemies across the country can be like, "What the hell?
Yeah.
What are you wearing that for?"
Are they Euro size or are they American size? So
why would I have Euro size, man?
Well, I don't know. It just depends on where they come from. You know, where the hoodies come from.
They are American
like this is
size.
a Euro.
I didn't even know.
This is a Euro jacket
Is
over
it?
here, yeah. So it's I think it's XL, but it's a large on me. So they're tiny people.
All
Over there,
right.
man.
Well, I know they have
Tiny.
different shoe sizes. Even Italy has different sizes from Britain, from different. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. So let's go through some notes here, man.
What do you got?
I got to get this card going here. First of all, we want to send a big thank you out to Mike Perkinpine for last week's show.
It was great, man. He came on. He came up here. We had dinner. He had a great show. He shared his history. You guys worked for everybody. He's an amazing drum tech. He's a playback specialist. He does a lot of the big shit. And it was just a treat having him.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
And you guys got a delivery let this week. Some new toys to play with.
We got a bunch of new auto. You should know about that. I thought it was funny because remember Kyle got him in here late that day and he plugged him up and he was like, remember? That was a great line. You said, oh yeah. He said, I don't know, man. Something's up with these. And you're like, yeah, he developed opinion in 2 hours. You could see your little brain stewing, little steam coming out.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a again, like Anya, it's a piece of equipment that you need to wrap your head around. You need to know what it's doing, why it's doing it. That's what I always say. You can't be an operator. You got to be a technician. Dig deep.
You are not wrong. And it turned out that was all that it needed, and we put it through its paces the next day, and the thing was extraordinary because they are extraordinary. The auto subs are from EAW are incredible and really kind of singular. You know, they're standalone. There's really nothing that is similar or can compete with them, and that was a very unique way that they operate. So, yeah, we ended up really enjoying them the following day, and yeah.
I think they'll be really beneficial for you guys in the noise abatement arena. You know, I mean, they're a great sub. I mean, they rock. But I mean, when you flex the muscle on what they can do directivity wise and keeping the sub energy where you want to put it, that's when you hit pay dirt. Then, so
not two ways about it.
You know, for companies, festivals, promoters, and stuff like that who have a deep concern about noise control, you know, and I hate saying noise control. Actually, I hate using that term because it's not noise; it's music, for Christ's sake.
It's fucking sound mitigation.
Yeah. So that's definitely a step in the right direction, and it's you know, I mean, every year it gets a little tighter and tighter. You know.
Yeah. So through a couple versions. I love the shit, and it's gonna handle a couple issues. As you know, we have in a couple festivals we do during the year, and it will do exactly what it's supposed to do, which is mitigate sound where it needs to be and make incredible sound where it also needs to be. So,
right, paired with Anya. So.
That's right. And the guy's just behind us here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're very lucky.
So, apparently Bernie fixed your Zippo.
This guy, Bernie, he's a good friend of mine. And I was arguing with a friend of mine yesterday. I think it was
Day before yesterday.
Day before yesterday. And Kyle got a little sassy. And I had just lit a cigarette, so I chucked my lit Zippo at him, and it lit him on fire, of course. But it broke my Zippo.
Yeah, it was a good cover-up, though, telling everybody he's got COVID.
Well, yeah,
he's in the burn unit. He's in the burn unit.
Yeah, he's suffering from some mild, third-degree singe. But no, thanks for fixing that, buddy. You know, I needed that. I'm old school Zippo diehard, and I was a little lost without my baby.
Yeah, man, no problem.
Thanks, buddy.
Alan Pettybones.
What the fuck?
Alan Pettybones.
Yeah, the Pettibone.
Apparently he went, he kicked large over the past couple of days, and
yeah, he did.
We have a small mansion sitting in the back parking lot, apparently.
So Bernie's got 2 production vehicles, really nice, like Freightliner, Mercedes engine, show haulers, like these special dealios. I got, his are about 38, 40 feet. I got a 36-footer myself over here, fucking really nice one you can drag around to shows where you need be and, live large when you're not working. And our friend Alan Pettibone, this is Incubus, our lighting guy here, Incubus, just got back from doing Primus. Yeah. He's an exceptional cat. He bought a 42-foot one today because he just wanted to make us feel bad, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little bit of penis envy going on there, I think.
It's super, fifth wheel envy.
Yep.
It's crazy good. His is like all badass and gnarly. And so good for him. He's got like the most modern shit.
Those things dwarf. I mean, you look crazy. At the dually that showed up to bring it, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a small truck.
No.
And that thing just dwarfs it. It looks like a little Volkswagen Beetle underneath the freaking thing.
Yeah, it was absolutely gymongous and brand spanking and very cool. So good for Alan Pettibone. We want him to be happy and come up like that.
Yeah.
And it's pretty crazy.
So apparently there's snow on the East Coast? Is that what is that?
Nor'easter, like one of them perfect storm situations where they're like just getting friggin' knocked over. You got Chopper Covage out in Carolinas getting hammered, and our friends in Baltimore and friggin' all the way up to New Hampshire just getting smacked around. It's super not good. Like 100 million people are exposed to this thing, all kinds of cancellations and tours getting shut down and just
the good old days.
Super fun stuff,
Those are the good old days back in Canada. When I used to have to,
you're Canadian, you know about that.
I used to have to factor that into my weekly schedule.
Yeah.
Am I even going to make it alive?
It's no wonder to me why you moved to California.
Jesus,
none.
Man.
Yeah, and you lived in Nova Scotia, right? Top of the world.
No, Newfoundland. That's where I'm from. Yeah. Like I said on my Facebook page, I was born on an island off the coast of an island.
Yeah. That's right.
Because I was actually born in Bell Island, Newfoundland, which is an island that's off the coast of Newfoundland.
Okay.
Believe it or not, it's like.
If you tell me, I'm gonna believe it.
It's like 2 miles wide or something. I'm serious. They call it the rock off the rock or something.
That's nuts.
So apparently you and George are getting together to do a party like a rock star.
Yeah, you know that podcast, Joel Miller's got a podcast. He usually has like rock stars on. Occasionally he's had Tyna Douglas on, world's first female roadie, author of the book Loud, great book. We've had her on. He's had all kinds of folks on, studio folks and, musicians and shit. And for some reason or other, he reached out to George and I, and we always like to support our friends doing this type of thing because actually we have an idea that it's kind of tricky to do these operations, get people booked in here, get a great guest like I got tonight. Mm-hmm. And so I can feel his pain and what he's trying to do. He takes it a little step further. He brings in 2 people at a time, and then he does the whole editing thing and shit. So,
right.
So we'll sit with him tomorrow for an hour or 2 and yap at him and answer his questions and see what he does with it. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He's had some great folks on the show.
Yeah, it's good to be a guest once in a while instead of a host, right?
Yeah, I'm going to find out. I've done a few of them, and always have fun. It's always interesting to see what people are curious about, the questions they got to ask and all that shit.
Absolutely, man.
I really appreciate you being here tonight, big brother.
Yeah, man.
How's your, by the way, great. Just real quick, I'm going to end up with this. That stuff you did for Schubert System Group.
Oh, yeah, the Curie boxes for Schubert.
Those turned out so cool.
They did,
The specialized anodized red, I think you went with them?
Yeah, well, the thing is that if you've seen the photos of them, they're not anodized.
What are they?
It looks anodized.
Are they dipped?
It's powder coated.
Very cool.
It's a special powder coat. I use a company, I think it's up in the Northeast somewhere. It's called Prismatic Powder. Uh-huh. And man, you can get anything. Like you can just get, as long as you got your techniques down, because a lot of this stuff is some 2 and sometimes 3 stages. You have to properly prep the metal, and that was the case with Schubert. If I didn't have the surface finish of the metal perfect, it wouldn't work. Yeah. So it had to be perfect so that when you laid this powder over it, it looked like anodization.
Yeah.
So that took some experimentation, and then the engraving, which is a new thing.
Yeah, it turned out really nice.
I just started doing that with the CNC.
He put his logo in it, the SSG logo
On the top, yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And it's not even fair to call it engraving because it's actually milled into the aluminum. Because it's rather deep.
Was it like a laser does it?
No, it's done with the CNC.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, engravers usually they only go a few mils deep,
Right.
But with the CNC, you can cut it as deep as you want. And I mean, he bought a whole batch of them from our corporate gift program, which allows other companies. I'm kind of like a neutral body, you know what I mean, in our industry when it comes to
vendors, manufacturers.
Yeah. And so the idea was that if you want to, have something custom done that people can have on their desk and in their homes and stuff like that, I don't have any problem with.
Very cool.
If Bose called me or if anyone else called, I wouldn't mind putting their logos on it and stuff and selling. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's just a lot of fun for me to do it. And Schubert Systems Group was the first people to take advantage of it, and I got a lot of feedback from the people that they gave them to, and they're blown away, of course,
They sound amazing.
There's top clients and stuff like that, over the Christmas and New Year's and things like that. So we keep talking. He's a big fan, as you know.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, it's great. And then over the past couple of weeks, we came up with a new look, a new addition to the cosmetic family, I guess. I think it's up on the screen. So I did something for all the truckers, for all the kind of road, tour bus drivers and rig drivers and stuff, And so I wanted to put something together that kind of speaks to them, because we can do all kinds of different colors and shapes and stuff like that, or not shapes, but designs and faceplates and stuff. But I wanted to do something that was kind of really focused at a segment of our industry, which is truck drivers and bus drivers and people like that, So we came up with this box called Diesel, and it actually uses Caterpillar yellow. So it is the actual Caterpillar yellow that you see, even if the shade doesn't look right in the photo or something like that. It's the same tone, and it has a diamond plate faceplate. So it's actually real diamond plate. And we prep it and we powder coat it black, satin black and stuff like that. So obviously we can't put the Caterpillar logo on it because you need to be licensed to do that. But it is the color. And so if anybody out there would like to have something that's more bespoke to kind of speak to what it is that they do, mechanically inclined. Maybe you're an excavator operator or a truck driver or something like that. You know, it's just, I just think it's a really cool and unique thing.
You're an imaginative cuss.
A cuss. I'm a cuss. Ma?
I just pulled that out of nowhere. Ma?
Ma? I'm a cuss.
But no, it's a sweet look, and I get it. And you're a gearhead, anyways. I'm pretty sure you got like gasoline in your veins, and it's a weird mix between your fast motorcycles and your loudspeakers. But
I thought it was a unique perspective because you would ordinarily, and I have played around with a lot of carbon fiber and titanium and things like that, which are really in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit of a divergence from that, and then I was thinking heavy machinery because it is a kind of like it is a thick box. You know what I mean?
It's very solid
weight
construction.
to it. Yeah.
There's no fake anything on it. It's pretty much all really dense aluminum and extraordinarily well cracked.
Yeah, and so I thought that doing something that was
indestructible,
kind
really.
of heavy duty looking was, and it turned out really nice. I mean, it really, really does look cool when you see it.
You got one of those yellow ones at the shop right now?
The first prototype actually went to my youngest son for Christmas.
Oh, that's very sweet of you.
Yeah,
Brian.
yeah. So
I want to see one when you build the next one, okay?
Yeah, he's always been a huge fan of the Transformers, and so he was also a huge fan of Bumblebee, and it actually kind of looks like Bumblebee.
Oh,
so,
I get it, sure.
So that's what he got. He's blown away by it. He loves.
You're a good pappy daddy.
Yeah, I do what I can.
Good for you, man. Thank you for being here tonight, Bern. Couldn't do it without you, my love.
Yeah, man.
Your brother and a half. All right, let's fucking get to this catch right here. I got very lucky. I always do. Been extraordinarily fortunate. Today we reached out to a really good friend of Sound Image. The guy came up through the SAE Institute. I'm going to ask him about that. I'm kind of half in and half out about the benefits of that institution, but I've seen some good things come out of it. He's worked with Mike Bourne at All Stereo Audio Systems. He's come up through, started with Vince Gill here at Sound Image early on, System Tech, I believe. Moved around and he's worked for a lot of big ass bands, from Shooter Jennings to, which is a lot of fun act for me, to working with Australia's one of the most famous exports, Olivia Newton-John, currently killing it front of house for John Legend. We're going to try to get him to talk about it and share his experience with it. It is the one and only John Loeser. How you doing, John?
Hey, doing well.
It's super good to have you on the show, my friend. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem, man. Like, you're doing us a solid. I mentioned that you've worked with Kyle Thomas. You guys were just out on tour with John Legend, right?
Yep.
All right,
absolutely.
spill the beans, dude. Tell us what he did. How did he hurt you? What exactly that we can use against him now currently?
Oh no, he brought out the that Adamson system, and it was great. We had a great time.
Yeah, no, he said you were killing it. You're crushing it every night, and that I know he got a lot of great reports back that his SE work was on point. I know that's a very challenging artist in the sense that it's got to be just so and right, and no two ways about it, man.
Oh, shit, I just put two and two together. I have a picture of you with Kyle with my
speaker.
With your speaker. Yeah, he was talking about before you came on the set. That, he's heard your shit.
I think you were still putting your ears in. Yeah, it sounds great, man. It was our bus speaker.
That's great, man.
Very
no, I just
awesome.
I'm sorry, I just put two and two together. I'm like, Kyle, John Legend. Oh, Adamson. Okay. Oh, yeah. I know who you are.
Yeah. So I mentioned in the intro that you went to SAE, and that I've seen both sides of that, and not just SAE, Full Sail, and some of the other ones, Expressions, and so on. Turn out some really quality folks, and I've also seen the other side of that. How is SAE for you?
Well, my experience there was they had just opened the Nashville school there.
Yeah.
To be honest, it was definitely geared towards recording. I think we had a week of loudspeaker design. I think we had a week of live sound just in general. And but I did have a really great teacher there that did a lot of live sound. But honestly, the school was not geared towards that. To be completely honest, like I had planned to go to MTSU, another school that a lot of people have gone to close to me. Yeah. I grew up around Nashville. Senior year, I wrecked my car. I couldn't afford to move out to Murfreesboro. And it was either I kind of pivoted and I saw a lot of my plan originally was to work in a studio. And it seemed like a lot of the studios in town, it didn't necessarily matter how much you knew or really, I mean, maybe not how much you knew, but you really had to be associated with some school to even get somebody to talk to you, basically, to do any sort of internships. But really, it was all about the experience. So I kind of looked at SAE as it was a short route to have a little bit of legitimacy and try to start working. But it was right for me. It's probably not right for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, it was a mix of stuff. I had a pretty good experience there, and I went on and got my experience on the road, and we're doing a lot of festivals. When I started working for Mike Bourne over at All Star Audio,
right.
It was a lot of, older stuff now, but he had a lot of big stuff for the time. And so I got to learn really quickly and kind of got thrown into a lot of situations. And I think that was really I feel like that was more of a school experience than actually school.
I totally understand. I couldn't agree with you more. I think most of us learn better with hands-on,
Absolutely.
And a lot of those programs, it seems like the production programs tend to teach towards the studio work.
They do. It's kind of a de facto standard. I mean, it's just something that they can wrap their heads around. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like the first thing I thought of going to school and how it was, it's it's an academic endeavor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference is nobody's yelling at you.
Yeah, you need that. You need the fire. I mean, I've always thought the fire was where the crucible was, where people were, cut out and made whole, and it's just real like that. I know you cut your teeth early on. I think you came in to Sound Image back in the day, and you went out with Vince Gill. Were you SE with that, or utility guy? What was your position?
I was the monitor tech. I got hired basically because I had used the Heritage 3000 a bunch, and I wanted to go on the road. I'm working for All Star Audio. They had a lot of great stuff, but they didn't do any touring. So I wanted to go on the road. I met Hugh Johnson, and they were just kind of building the Nashville shop with Sound Image. So I kind of got in at a really good time, and there weren't really any shop people in Nashville at the time. So myself and then the front of house tech, Todd Wines, we both kind of started working. We were the only two shop people because the Vince Gill tour didn't work enough to really be full time. That was, at All Star, I had a full time gig. So I was like, well, if I can work in the shop and go on tour, I'll do that,
Absolutely.
So it was, like I said, I started at Sound Image at a really good time, and the Nashville shop grew quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then the Vince Gill tour kind of gave me time to start mixing on the side and still have a steady tech gig.
He's an incredible picker. As it relates to,
absolutely.
As one of the, kind of Marty Stewart level, Glenn Campbell kind of picking, the guy can really play.
It was amazing first tour, the musicians, and some of them, I've worked with beyond that. And it's just, it was a really big, like, family vibe, and it was great first tour. I couldn't have asked for anything better.
No, you got in the sweet spot right there with the country act, especially a Vince Gill type thing, and coming in and Sound Image. Yeah, I bet you that was a nice smooth landing for you. So that's really
Absolutely.
sweet. Yeah, it gave you a chance to work out your skills. I mentioned that you worked with John Legend recently. I think that tour just pulled in a couple months back, and you were out there with our boy Kyle Thomas as an SE, and you were doing front of house. What's it like working with John Legend? I'm about to have Dave Morgan on, and he's the king of that amplitude, sweet, clean mix. Like for Paul Simon and Jackson Brown and James.
Absolutely.
James Taylor. He's just a legend.
I think you're listing my tuning music.
Right. Even makes for Steely Dan, So, that's a lane. I always figured that's a lane, kind of like Greg Price does all the, the crunchy, hard shit. He's out with Metallica right now. He's known for Black Sabbath and Ozzy. We pick lanes. And so, what's it like mixing for John Legend? Any special skills you bring to bear with that?
Honestly, it's a really good R&B band, and he is he's probably the strongest singer I've ever, strong as in, like, actual volume.
Projection.
Projection. There's a lot going into that. So I have no problem with, that's, of all the inputs, I don't have any real issues anyway. But I mean, that's the one that's like just easy, which is not the norm for it to be the obviously most important one.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. This was my first tour with them. I started just last fall. So it was a really great band to just kind of jump in. I kind of have my starting place that I get and really got dialed in the first day or two of rehearsals, and it was just massaging beyond that. So honestly, I couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, no, what a special kind. I mean, just an incredible
funny.
artist.
It's funny. I just want to interject for a minute because I was a lead singer way back in the '80s, big hair band days.
Yeah,
and
guitarist.
And I like a lot of singers and stuff like that. When you're playing 6 nights a week, your voice gets a beating. Especially when you're doing heavy rock and things like that, which we were doing.
Yeah.
And I finally went to an operatic vocal coach to start taking some real training, and one of the first things he said to me was, outside of the classical, diaphragm projection and things like that, he says, those guys that are out there, singing all the time and they're kicking ass, and I said, yeah. He goes, well, they only look like they're giving it 150%. He says they're actually giving it 75 to 80%.
Yeah,
that's the trick.
You'll blow your shit out if you go hard like that.
That's the trick. So when you see these guys up there, like Joe Elliott and
I would say
like that.
Durwood I call him Durwood from Disturbed is a great example.
Yeah.
He's known for having a really big rah, thing, and he does a lot of screeching and stuff and a very hard music. But he is using every trick in the book.
Absolutely.
From his vocal coach, who is this older gal, this opera chick, that keeps him in line and keeps his stuff fresh so he can go out there and do that. And a big part of it is keeping some shit in reserve. It's a huge thing.
You have to.
Yeah.
I worked with this artist back in Canada who's had a big problem with that, and I just ended up knowing these tips and tricks and brought it to him, and within a couple of weeks of touring, he managed to wrap his head around what I was saying. And it saved his ass because he was blowing his voice out every second, third day. He was starting to crack. And I'm like, dude, you got to look like you're giving it 150%. You just can't give 150%. Your body can't take it day after day.
No, I know you're right. It's funny because I wanted to ask him about Prince and talk about a guy that brings it, and really just stagecraft and performance, but is a unique, individual to work with, has special needs, and is I have many people that worked with Prince. I've worked with Prince that have come on because of his nature to turn his crew over pretty regularly. That's what he does. But I know you were out with Prince. How the hell did you deal with the special needs that was Prince? Because Prince is one of the rare artists that actually knows how all the gear works. He understands all the plugins, he understands the capabilities, and he is not afraid to get in your shit. What was it like being out front for Prince?
Well, there weren't any plugins. The only plugins were the actual physical instruments.
I'm talking plugins.
Yeah.
Like where I'm not talking
physically plugging things in.
All the outboard gear, he knows how to operate.
He really, actually, when I came in and it was an odd situation, I kind of slowly took over for a guy that was much more technically advanced than I was. But at the time, he wanted somebody that was more attuned to the music, I guess, or something. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I know I basically kind of slowly got in there. It was all analog. He would be at front of house, just cranking gains and EQ knobs on the H3K. Get it right where it's at, and then it was John Blackwell was the drummer, and it was such a great band. I mean, musically, I honestly couldn't imagine anything better. But professionally, the most terrifying thing you could imagine. But,
hands down, I get it. Yeah.
But when it was great, it was like magic. So it was one of those experiences. I mean, I had the time at the Forum. We had Rat Sound out there, and those guys were amazing.
Yeah, that brings it, that's for sure.
Honestly, could not have asked for anything better with that. And then we got to Europe, and it was a bit of a pidge podge of things. And, he's not the kind of guy that you want to have gear not the same every day and things not, it has to, the whole MO was if he didn't say anything about it, it has to be exactly like it was yesterday, you know, unless there's something he said to change specifically.
Did he ever have an opinion as to how that's supposed to work in the real world? I mean, it's one thing to say, I want it to sound the same every day, but was there any realization in the man that when you change all this equipment and atmosphere and stuff like that, how difficult it is to arrive back to
room to room, venue to venue?
It's
impossible.
Did he have an understanding of that? Or did you ask?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't really know. I mean, you know, he gave the impression that in his mind, you're a professional and you should be able to make it perfect. And I mean, like I said, some of the best situations ever, but he would be on stage and he said I could do all of your jobs better than you, but I can't do it while I'm up here singing my songs.
And he was probably right.
You know, so
extraordinary talent.
Any given one job for him.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like he knew, because he knew his show so well. Right. He knew he knew exactly what to do with it. The problem is obviously he can't be everywhere at the same time. So he was trying to kind of get that through everybody. You know, it's difficult when you're that much of a perfectionist.
He never settled on a guy, did he? I mean, ever. I'm like, he never settled on a front of house guy that said, okay, this dude ultimately gets it, and I'm holding on to him. It's like, it
never happened.
You're a hero today, you're a loser tomorrow, kind of scenario.
I mean, pretty much turned over his crew almost every tour, and sometimes well before the tour ended. That was his deal. That's just what he did. And you know, when
it ended with me, it was everybody, the whole crew, everyone was gone all at the same time. One backline guy stayed, because they needed somebody that knew what was going on.
You do somebody to do the truck
pack. Something like that. It was like, you know, and everyone knew it. You know, it was. It was. He would get grumpy, and then you know, the crew would be grumpy, and then it would be, you know, there'd be a new production manager. You know, and it was like, oh, okay, well that's different. And then you know, I mean, I was there for probably 6 months, 7 months.
That's actually,
and that's a good fucking run, buddy.
Three production managers, you know.
Yes. So, that was not uncommon.
I was just happy I got asked to do the Europe tour after I finished a prior tour. So
you're surprised.
Like
I get to do this
exactly.
again?
I was like, oh, am I doing this again? Okay.
Maybe I'm the guy.
Well,
I don't know.
With that said, and having toured, around Europe and throughout America, do you have a favorite venue like, Paris, say Ryman or Red Rocks or Hollywood Bowl, the Gorge in Colorado? I mean, there's the really ones that stand out, the Fox in Detroit, Madison Square Garden in New York, the Capitol in D.C. Any favorite room? Fox in Atlanta's nice.
I gotta be completely honest. I mean, a lot of those rooms I've had great shows in, but my favorite day is a wide open field and a great sound and PA. And that's honestly my favorite show.
Right on.
And that might be generic, but
no, it actually makes perfect sense. I fully get that.
That's my favorite day.
It beats the hell out of one of the tin can buildings.
If they can take the roof off the front of house area and I'm just wide open and it's a really great sounding PA. I'm happy as a clam.
Right on. I totally get that. I absolutely get that. You worked front of house for Rascal Flatts. That's a hell of a band. They had a great run and a lot of good shows, really strong players. What was it like being out front for that? Do you have a preference between country and rock and roll? Do you prefer one or the other?
No, the schedules are a lot different, I mean, I think it's definitely changes that situation a bit. But, they were definitely more of a pop kind of country band anyway.
Yeah.
It was all about their harmonies. It was not, there was a song called Banjo, and there was a banjo that was played on a couple songs.
Right.
And there's a steel guitar, but I mean, it definitely was not your traditional country stuff,
That's right.
But the whole thing was about the harmonies and the voice, and
they were a solid band for sure.
Yeah. Great band. And
there was
like I said,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying I was lucky to work with them for so long.
So there was a country festival that I worked on in Nashville one time, and the front of house sound engineer had a piece of paper stuck beside the rack, and somebody caught a photo of me sitting beside the rack and posted it on Facebook. I'll have to go back and find it. But on the piece of paper, it said, "Rock and roll songs played by country artists today." And he was checking them off, and there was like 10 different check marks on the piece of paper because there was always like some sort of a rock song being thrown in.
Absolutely.
Into the mix. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's one thing that's allowed to happen in modern country is that you can be influenced by rock and roll. Chris Stapleton does this quite a bit. It's a little more opened up, but at the same time, it is certainly not from the Western tradition. I mentioned he works with Shooter Jennings. I'll ask you about that. But
Absolutely.
Waylon, to me, that's Western music. Woody and old
Johnny Cash,
Merle Haggard, Johnny waffled in between rockabilly and rock and straight hard Western. I mean, it would depend on what his incarnation was. But what was it like being out with Shooter Jennings? Now, I find his act was pretty exciting and kind of fun for something a little different.
Honestly, I feel like that was like college for me. It was all one bus. We were bused. We had a trailer. Shooter was in a bunk just like all the rest of us, and he was about the same age as me. We all kind of we were all in one boat. It was a much nicer version of what I would expect my high school friends had in van tours. If that makes sense.
Right. So
like it was so much fun. We were playing clubs. I couldn't ask for a better first gig. We did so many. I mean, from the crappiest crap clubs to awesome festivals and opening for Willie Nelson and Three Doors Down and Skinnerd. And I mean, it was great because he had the notoriety where we would get the big gigs.
The heritage.
But but we also, I learned a lot playing, touring all the really crappy clubs.
Yeah, dude, that's where the fully real cut. I mean, for real country,
absolutely,
there's a lot to be learned in the slots, and frankly, hard and fun. It's just kind of up and down.
Absolutely,
a lot of fun, a lot of growing. Being a family man, I checked out your Facebook. I follow you, and you got a beautiful little daughter, a fabulous wife. Well, you ever have any conflicts in the touring and maintaining the family aspects of life?
Honestly, that's kind of been the silver lining of this whole COVID thing, was I've had so much time at home with my daughter, and with the country world, the schedule is definitely more, you're home more often. Yeah, you don't definitely. It's different because I feel like you can't necessarily plan events, and you still miss. You miss a lot of things because it's a weekend thing, but you're home the beginning of every week. So it's a little, I don't know. I'm still figuring that part out. My daughter's only 3 years old. And so the new with John Legend, it's definitely a more predictable schedule. Whereas with Rascal Flatts, it was just like, well, you basically don't plan anything on the weekend unless it's in January.
Right.
Because if there's not something scheduled, there probably will be,
Yeah. You mentioned your 3-year-old daughter. I was trolling your page, and I came across a really adorable picture. Mikey, let's show this picture of this little teeny baby swimming in a pool. It can be 1 year old. I don't know, maybe a little more, but it's absolutely adorable. And what's it like throwing a baby in a pool and not freaking out? I would not sure I would handle it as well as you did.
We do this. It's ISR, the infant swim resource. She's been in swim classes. Honestly, I think they start them at like 6 months old. It's all about, they learn to roll on their back and float, so if they were to fall in, not that we have a pool, that would be great. But, the whole idea is that if they were to fall in the pool, they actually learn even at that young of an age what to do to survive at least. So she's been doing that real early and it's great.
Yeah, it's absolutely adorable photos, and it just looks like you can't lose with that one. Yeah, you suck my, because
right.
you know, babies.
You slid that in there, didn't you?
I was having a note with my director for a second, but
See, I'm on point here.
My boy caught it.
I'm on point.
I got to ask you. Okay, so at some point in your early career, you had to make a choice. And I'm always curious about this. I had a dear friend of mine, John Del Rio, over today. By the way, I want to shout out to Charlie Zwicky, John Del Rio, Tony Lewis, Pat O'Doul, all my dear, dear good friends, Scott Cheney, Susan Kearney. Thank you guys for being here. And the one and only love of my life, the goddess in my world, Jackie Canterbury.
Oh, Jackie.
Yeah, I wasn't talking to you.
Sorry.
All right, because you're always trying to get in on loving.
I know.
All right, you get plenty of loving. Let's not forget. All right, thank you for letting me do that homework right there, brother. Why audio? Why not lighting? Why not video? What drew you to audio?
None of those were ever interesting at all to me. I don't know why. I mean, I grew up as a musician.
Totally.
You know,
Lighting guys right now are sharpening their blades.
Yeah.
It's just not me. I don't know why. I mean, honestly, my thing, I always say, like, I got into this stuff to be able to play with toys I could never afford myself, you know?
Yeah.
So, I just always liked gear and playing with it, using it. And it felt really natural to me. Yeah. And when I've kind of figured out that was a thing, that even, you know, especially when I didn't know that, you know, a live sound company or anything like that was a thing, you know, this was a job. But when I figured that out, it made a lot of sense to me. And
a lot of people think that, you know, I mean, the layman people out there think that when they go see a concert, like the band owns the gear, like it's all sort of some, you know, they just don't understand, you know.
Yeah, right.
This is a very broad industry, and all this equipment supports hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that was the shock when COVID first hit, and our industry started to get seriously impacted. People started to realize how many people in the entertainment industry were actually being impacted outside of the...
Pretty much everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the artists, of course, they can't tour, but they didn't understand that there's 100 people behind the artist that are also out of work at the same time.
Oh, it's crazy. I think that there's a large misconception. It goes from everything when you try to explain to a civilian what you do. You're meeting somebody and they're like, well, what do? You just can't avoid it. And in that moment, I always kind of weigh, am I going to tell them what we do? Yeah. Or just be like, oh, I'm in a service business and I, you know, keep care of people's needs in this, you know, in audio, video, and, you know, try to dumb it down, because the first thing you're going to hear is when you say, well, John just got back from John Legend tour as a front of house engineer. Well, first of all, they won't know what that is. And the second one is they're going to say, oh, man, that must be so fun.
That's fun.
Oh, my God, you're hanging out with rock stars and do drugs and drink and the groupies. And it's like, no, actually.
It's not the 80s anymore.
And there was a time when that was a thing. But it's been well over 20 years since that has disappeared and gone away. And, you know, it's we work really hard for a living, and we're in first, we're out last. We usually get cut lid and electrocuted, and it's all in the day's work. And so, although we enjoy what we do, it's just, I think it's a misconception. So I don't look forward to that conversation. I try to get out of it every time.
I just think that certain individuals, certain types of individuals, are drawn towards this work. None of us. I mean, if you sat it down and you put it out on paper, you'd be mad to be in this industry. When you put everything down, like you were just talking about your personal life and getting fired and all of the things we go through, right? And and we don't. I don't think most of us ever stopped to think we could have done something else. You know, we could have gotten into some other line of work, but we just keep our heads down and we keep doing it. It's you know, we just love what we do.
Well, some of us love the gear, some of us love the traveling, some of us love the music, or just straight music nuts. All three of us here are examples, and we've seen this over and over, John. We've done 90 shows or so, and pretty much to the man or woman, it's, oh yeah, I was playing music with a band, little crappy band, you know, guitar, whatever, drums, guitar, singing, bass, and before I know it, I started getting into the gear, and then you know, it seems like a really natural progression.
I think the industry finds you. It's not the other way around.
You know. Yeah, and you know, I thought about it, and any of the punk bands I grew up in, nobody ever cared what the lights or the video looked like.
Right.
Yeah.
But everybody had to turn something up.
Well, you're definitely you're not wrong.
So
You're not wrong.
it just that I think it was just more of a natural progression from that, growing up that way.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. It was the kind of thing that led, the audio has always led back in the day, but now, with lighting being what it is, an extraordinary compliment to the show.
Share the stage.
And now LED's
It's
taking
very
a run
important
in video,
Absolutely.
right? Laser, Pyro, there's so many different disciplines.
There's so many parts.
To go be a part of and, to excel at, fucking Pyro Pete or guys like that are just legends in the game,
Sure. Yeah.
So it's, I get it though. I was similarly drawn, this love of the sound and wanted to chase it down, wanted to perfect it, wanted to dial it. And so I think it's just it's something that's in you and you figure it out and you pursue,
Hey man, you stick with it. I sure you'll get somewhere.
You think if I do this for a couple more
I
years,
think if you apply yourself,
get my name out there?
yeah, get your name out there. Maybe get a hoodie.
I should get a hoodie with my picture
there you
on
go.
it.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Maybe a banner.
You're not right, but you're not right.
Johnny, I got to ask you about Olivia Newton-John. Now, I come up with Olivia Newton-John, friggin' Grease and all of Xanadu and all that shit, and she was on the radio. Hey, this is back in the AM days, she's all piping and singing, good physical and all that.
Oh, come on, baby.
And she was a beautiful woman. She was a lovely woman.
Man.
And I know she recently,
still is.
She didn't pass it. I know she recently had cancer situation.
Really?
I hope she didn't pass.
Yeah, she's had a few bouts with it or rounds of it.
What a shame.
I know she had she had a problem with it recently, but I'm not sure where she is right now. I think she's still around. She's doing all right as far as I know.
Well, she's an extraordinary talent. What was it like being out on the road with her?
Amazing. Honestly, like just super talented band. It was one of those gigs that for a couple of years, it wasn't necessarily one that you could build your year around, but you really hoped that you were available when they called, it was, and because, she had not, when I started, she had not toured in a long time. And I kind of came back and took over from a guy that, had moved on to something else. And it was, I honestly got put in a great position, and we did mostly fly dates. I mean, I think the whole time I worked for her, we did one tour in the US. Everything else was overseas, shipping wireless and, getting ready. At the time, it was all profiles, pretty much everywhere we went.
Sure.
Profiles or PM5Ds, depending on.
This is probably about 20 years ago, give or take.
This was 2010, 11.
Wow.
Or so.
Yeah.
And, when we went to South America, it was, I ended up, there was one show, I think it was Uruguay. I think it was my first show with her. I did on a PM4K. Because it was just what was the house console and whatever.
What the hell?
Yeah, I was like, okay, whatever, great. And then every other show, I think I had a profile for every other show. It was like, and the monitor guy had a 5D on a couple. It was just the offhand. It was at that time, it was like we went to Sri Lanka, and the guy that ran the sound company there was amazing, and he had just bought. He had a full size venue. And he had just bought an SC48, and I helped him unbox it. Yeah. And he had he'd bought a bunch of JBL stuff. But I think we were with Olivia when we played in Colombo in Sri Lanka. We were the first full band performance that they had since their civil war.
Wow.
So it was. I think they had Billy Ocean play to tracks, but we were the first full band. Right on. But it was one of those situations. So they didn't have a lot of stuff, but it was so great to be able to just kind of show up with a USB drive in a lot of these places and do a great show.
Throw your show in and go to it. Yeah.
And again, it was an easy band to mix. It made it great when we would do the opera house gigs and the symphony dates. Right. So all that stuff was. It was amazing. Sonically, just so clean. Couldn't ask for better.
Yeah, it's very neat. Yeah. So you mentioned that you've been to Sri Lanka and you've traveled quite a bit, Paris and most parts of Europe. Did you have a favorite? Uruguay, you did hit obviously South America. Any special place that you really stuck with you that you were getting paid to be there?
Well, honestly, being paid to be there, probably just in general, Japan was probably the coolest and my favorite. I did get a really great opportunity to be in Bali by myself for about a week, and it was basically the end of the Olivia Newton-John tour. Ended in Jakarta, and then I got an offer to do a one-off for a Colby Calais that was like 6 days later.
Yeah.
So I was like, give me a hotel buyout, and I flew myself to Bali, and that was, one of those trips. Everything worked out.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Well, let's make it interesting. Let's flip the script here. What was the most nightmare place that you've played that comes to mind? There's a place that get me the hell out of here, man. I say that on the regular, but for other people, it may be. It
was probably the one in the Philippines. It was we did it was the Olivia one, and we did that. I forget the name of the arena, but where they had the big boxing, the Thrilla in Manila, the Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was just a big place with not enough PA, and everything was thrown together. And, they had what they needed on stage, and I dealt with what I got out front kind of situation.
Which was awesome, I bet.
It's kind of
and I was the PM, so I knew what I was going into, but I was like, okay, this is just going to be one of those days,
Right.
It was, again, it wasn't a horrible, I would say any of the days where I was on the road with Shooter Jennings and I spent all day fixing the house PA at the crappy club, like that, I would say that was the worst day, rather in
right here in hometown,
Odessa, Texas, or something,
And then has anybody got a polarity checker? Anyone have a polarity checker, please?
Yeah. Well, and that was the great thing with Shooter. He was around all the time, and he could see all that. So he made jokes, where he's like, well, we're not really touring. We're just going around so John can fix everybody's house PAs, so it was one of those situations, it was fun. Everybody was in the boat, and everybody was just had the mindset to make it work. And, for me, I was frustrated, but most of the time it worked out great,
Right. It sounds very
expectations were met.
Absolutely.
Right.
Fantastic. So what's next for you, my brother? What do you got on the schedule?
Busy year with John Legend. We're doing 3 different Vegas residencies.
Really?
We've got
30 days apiece?
There's 3 weeks each, 3 weekends each.
No kidding.
So we're doing one at the end of April into May, and then we got some Europe dates over the summer, and then back for another residency, and then some fall dates touring around, kind of one-off touring, and then another Vegas residency in October.
Very, very cool. Vegas can be a lot of fun. And listen, a
lot of that.
It sounds fun. It sounds like you got booked up and you're ready to bang it out. You're going to take Kyle with you, right? I mean, please. Can't even.
He's a little burned. He's a little crispy right now.
I'm just playing.
You'll recognize him.
I
Remember
love
the fire?
Me some Kyle. He's my boy.
Who was it that did the fire marshal? What was that show? Remember back?
Fire Marshal Bill, Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey.
Oh,
right.
Jim Carrey.
He'll look like Jim. He'll look like Fire Marshal Bob.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say, is that the before or the after? No.
Yeah, right. He said, "Throw a long bomb." You took him seriously, and
so are you an Adamson fan? Is that a PA you really enjoy working on?
I enjoyed. This was honestly the only tour I did with it was the John Legend tour, and I really enjoyed it.
Was it E15? It's a great system
with the
great
12s underneath.
That's where I started my career in system design, like enclosure designs and stuff, was with Adamson back in Canada. Brock and I were good old friends. Yeah,
Yeah,
Slept on a couch
Yes.
and ate pizza developing Y-axis.
Yeah.
The very first one, the very first line array. Yeah.
This fool right here.
Lots of great
It's
stories.
funny to sit
Absolutely.
around like people like you or him or even myself in some ways. You know, all the history that's gone on. This guy right here, every year, millions of people sit in front of his work and have no idea,
Yeah.
you know, as they are entertained
Absolutely.
and you and I get to make shit through it or whoever. And this youngster right here has been putting out loudspeakers that have entertained millions of people through the years. And it's quite, it's nice. It's interesting.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, you're a badass.
I just am always curious, you know, because, you know, audio is so subjective, you know, and
For sure.
you know, it's funny, I tell the story all the time, you know, when I first put Curie out, one of the very first people who bought one was Greg Price.
Yeah,
And I was scared fucking shitless.
you should have been.
I was scared shitless.
Yeah, that is
like,
scary.
What the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Why are you buying my speaker? I don't want, you know, I
Yeah.
designed it for a consumer market kind of thing, you know? And,
Right, yeah.
And then Dirk Schubert buys one, you
Yeah,
know? And then
yeah.
Martin Fry buys one. And I'm like, okay, the freaking shoe's going to drop here
Yeah.
really, really soon.
Yeah.
You got to live up to your legacy, obviously.
Well, you know,
people,
it's-
They
know
bought
you.
it off his name. You know, first of all, it's pretty.
Exactly.
Right? It's got a good look, but
know you.
they know what he's capable of. But I know, like Greg's thing worked out really good because you guys took notes on it with each other,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you
yeah.
made some minor adjustments.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it-
he
and the
gave us some
product
feedback,
Yeah.
yeah.
and the product is better for it. But you know, you came 99% whole.
Yeah, it was never a case of I
No.
don't like it, you have to fix it. It
No,
was
no,
always
no,
a case
no,
of it's fantastic, but I think if you do this little tweak and that little tweak, it will be even better. And I'm so open to that. You
But
know what
also,
I mean?
that's why you're lucky because you are surrounded by people like
Exactly.
that have
All the
that
time.
level of skill and knowledge. That if Greg Price says to you, you know, the bottom, what do we mess with the filter this way, that way? And that's a huge thing. That's
a huge
That's
thing.
such a win for you.
Brands would
And
pay
then-
millions of dollars for the honor to have this fucking company surrounding them.
You know, and it's
Right.
it's such a great thing as long as you know you can be open to it.
Always open,
because
yeah.
the product has benefited from those folks being involved in it. I know I personally have one, my favorite little guy. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And so it's what a blessing.
Well, it's like I always say to people, they don't understand it, so they don't get this. VDOS, you know, the most famous, the first of modern line array, blah 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 blah. VDOS was nothing until sound companies and rental companies actually got it and started feeding back information.
Yeah.
You know, that's where
Absolutely.
it really got its roots into the earth, was the feedback that they received and accepted and you know, to whatever degree they could, made changes and modifications and advancement to the system. This system, VDOS, was built by sound engineers and built by the industry.
Yeah.
Christian designed the enclosure, but you know what you finally heard in front of an audience was you guys, you know, feeding back the information.
No, it's absolutely priceless. I got to ask you, buddy, John. You know, we've got a lot of young people. We've got all kinds of folks, manufacturers, bands, vendors, other technicians, some pretty
Even some lighting guys.
amazing people. And I love the lighting guys. Couldn't do it without the lighting guys. It would just be a radio without the lighting guys. But do you have any advice you can give for the youngsters coming up in the business on how to be successful in this game?
Show up and don't turn down gigs. Basically,
Except for the ones for exposure.
be-
They can keep the fucking exposure
Keep the
gigs.
exposure gigs, yeah.
Well,
I'm not doing
run
that.
those right up
Well,
your
I can't pay the rent with
passage.
fucking exposure. So
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'll say, you know, even like the years of me just doing kind of the random touring gigs of mixing small bands, it was the fact that I could be in the shop, be around, be visible, and be helpful. And a lot of the gigs I got were because I would build a rig in the shop for somebody, or I would tack on, especially doing monitor gigs. There were a few of them that, you know, a guy that didn't really want to do the gig got the gig. He did it for a little bit, and then I took over, or things like that, you know.
Sure.
So really just being available and just wanting to learn as much as possible is a huge thing.
Stay curious, my friend.
Be on time, ask
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
And baby wipes.
Yeah.
If you're going to give any advice,
And
baby wipes.
if you're nervous about doing the gig, then you're probably doing the right gig.
You're having
you know?
fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
You
having
know,
fun when you're nervous. That's
Yeah,
it's a
for sure.
fantastic thing. You know, I always say to people all the time, I say, don't be an operator, be a technician. You know,
Yeah.
meaning that understand how shit works. Don't just press a button.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
and that'll make you and be kind. You know, at the end of the day, just be a kind person, and
Absolutely.
You'll feel better about yourself.
It's been an absolute treat. First of all, having you here to Bernie Broderick, you chatty Cathy. It was very good. Thank you for your contributions to the show. I love that guy. Mr. Loeser, we couldn't have done it without you. It's been absolute. Thank you so much for coming on our show and sharing with Bernie and I and our whole audience and your experiences and nobody can say a bad word about you. We love you across the board. Everybody knows you're one of the badasses in the game. We super duper appreciate you coming on the show tonight, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I asked him when Kyle sent me over the photos with him and Kyle standing with the Curie. I said, could you please ask him, is it okay if I use this picture? Because he's in it. And, I want to make sure. And he said, oh, yeah, he's totally fine with it, man. Fucking go for it. I'm like, thanks, brother.
Well, and on that note,
he did ask me.
He did ask me, did he? Okay, I thought he just threw your shit out there. He just threw you to the wolves. But no. It's a good
Never
thing.
Assume anything.
I like that it was out in the field being road tested, bus tested. On top, I think it was on a few consoles, super good. Yeah. And let's send some love out to Kyle Thomas. We hope he's okay and that he doesn't get any of the COVID like outright symptoms and he comes back to us whole. And listen, we're right at an hour, and I love that. I'm going to try to clip out right here. Thank you for being on the show. John, thank you for being on the show. Next week, we're really lucky. We got a great show. We're just lucky.
We're just lucky.
The Hager brothers are going to come on. So
that's fucking great. Devo and Hager.
We're going to bring on Paul David, which, of course, is the mix engineer for St. Vincent, for Beck, for Devo, and, of course, his brother, Josh Hager, who is Devo's guitarist and just all-around legendary badass. We're going to have him on next week. We're going to have him share some stories. He's going to get up in it, and it should be a lot of fun. Until then, we do this every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here. Come back and see us. And until then, be good, be nice, behave, all that shit. And we love you.
Check out, baby.
See you next week. Have a good night.
Hey. Yeah, man. Yeah. Hey.